We are concerned because Jewish New Yorkers are alarmed. And what I can tell you is I look right at the camera. If you are a Jewish New Yorker, we have your back. We launched the Mamdani Monitor this morning. We are simply going to track, again, not what he says in a single speech, but what he does. We will hold Mamdani, Mayor-elect Mamdani, accountable.
Jonathan Greenblatt there, Anti-Defamation League. They've launched what they call a Mamdani Monitor to make sure the mayor-elect doesn't do anything or appoint anyone that they deem anti-Semitic. More on the monitor in a second, in addition to a shocking confrontation between Greenblatt and Joe Scarborough. But first, Cenk, your 2 cents. I watched that live and I couldn't believe it. So people want to stay tuned for that, but your 2 cents.
Yeah, I watched the whole segment too. I couldn't believe Scarborough stood up against him. It was shocking. So I have some more thoughts on that whole segment in a second, and we're going to show you that clip in a second. But also, he said, now if you're a Jewish New Yorker, that feels unsafe because I keep telling you to feel unsafe. Oh, you should be really worried. There's a Muslim mayor. This is ADL claims to be an anti-hate group. I think they've now turned into an actually pro-hate group. I'll explain more as you see the vile comments of Jonathan Greenblatt.
Yeah, their website, the ADL's website now features this so-called Mamdani Monitor. Here's what it says. In light of Mayor-elect Mamdani's long disturbing record on the issues of deep concern to the Jewish community, ADL is watching and responding to the policies and appointments of the new administration. Sign up for alerts and opportunities for you to take action and help keep Jewish New Yorkers safe. ADL also said in a statement that this Mamdani Monitor will prove transparency around City Hall decisions affecting Jewish New Yorkers, including education policy, budget priorities, security measures. That's just part of the statement. But budget priorities, we should tell you, he's also referring to BDS, or the Boycott, Divest, and Sanction movement, which he considers to be anti-Semitic. The webpage features an anti-Semitism tip line where anyone can write in, report alleged attacks or discrimination against Jewish New Yorkers. ADL experts will support victims. They'll use data gained from incidents to track and monitor the impact the new administration could have on the safety of Jewish residents. The launch of this Mamdani Monitor isn't overly surprising since Jonathan Greenblatt has repeatedly accused Mamdani of anti-Semitism. In announcing this initiative, he falsely said again, Mamdani has promoted anti-Semitic narratives associated with individuals who have a history of anti-Semitism and demonstrated intense animosity toward the Jewish state. In his reaction to the ADL's new project, Mamdani once again made it abundantly clear Greenblatt smears are inaccurate.
I have not spoken to Jonathan Greenblatt. I take the issue of anti-Semitism incredibly seriously. And last night in my speech, I spoke about how my city hall will stand steadfast with Jewish New Yorkers in fighting the scourge of anti-Semitism across the city and making that clear in the actions that we deliver on from January 1st. And I look forward to working with Jewish leaders across this city, whether they be elected officials, whether they be rabbis, whether they be community leaders, to deliver on the promise of not just protecting Jewish New Yorkers, but celebrating and cherishing them in this same city. I think that anyone is free to catalog the actions of our administration. I have some doubts in Jonathan's ability to do so honestly, given that he previously said I had not visited any synagogues, only to have to correct himself.
A little error there. But Mamdani isn't the only person skeptical of Greenblatt's ability to be impartial. It seems Joe Scarborough is too. During an appearance on Morning Joe, Greenblatt was asked about Mamdani's support for BDS and tried to tie that policy to violence against Jews. Watch this.
He makes a distinction, as many people do, between Jews in New York and the state of Israel. What he's saying is, I take my brothers and sisters, Jewish New Yorkers, separate from the policies of the state of Israel. BDS, he says, is meant to punish the state of Israel. How do you respond to that distinction?
Well, look, there's lots of room to criticize policies of the state of Israel. But what I worry about, what New Yorkers worry about, is when the guy gets assaulted for wearing a yarmulke and they hit him in the head and yell at him as a Zionist. or when the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania is burned down by someone who claims Josh Shapiro has a policy on Palestine, which he doesn't, or when 2 young Jewish people are shot and killed outside the Jewish Museum by someone who yells Free Palestine, or when an elderly person is firebombed in Boulder, Colorado, like an 80-year-old woman, by someone angry about Gaza.
We're all shocked, and we all find this abhorrent, and I'm sure that the next mayor would say the same thing.
All right, so that was just part of it, folks. When Scarborough pointed out that Mamdani has gone to one high holiday celebration after another, Greenblatt said that wasn't exactly right because he went to an anti-Zionist synagogue. Later in the segment, Joe Scarborough called out the ADL leader for, well, insinuating that Mamdani was supportive of violence against Jews.
But you're not suggesting that he supports the firebombing in Colorado.
Never said
You're not suggesting that he supports the firebombing.
I never said that.
No. There is a lot. There's a lot of blurring and blending here, Jonathan. And I love you, and you're on all the time, and I'm always a fierce defender of yours. But you seem to be like blurring a lot of things together, and then looking into that camera and say, call us. We're going to make sure that he doesn't support
I say to Jewish New Yorkers, call us if you feel unsafe. I'm not accusing him of those things. What I want to make sure is he doesn't create an environment where Jewish people are unsafe. He doesn't create an environment where globalizing intifada becomes a mantra.
Okay, so Cenk, he was absolutely accusing Mamdani of those things.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, buckle up for what I'm about to say about Jonathan Greenblatt. So, first of all, of course he was insinuating that. Why bring that up, right? So, you just brought it up randomly as you're saying, Mamdani, monitor. We have to monitor this Muslim. Remember the people who attacked these folks? Wait, were the people who attacked those folks even Muslim? No, right? But it doesn't matter. We're going to demagogue against a different religion. And so Jonathan Greenblatt's whole purpose is do not demagogue against Jews because of their religion. I couldn't agree more, I 1000% agree. Then I said, also don't demagogue against Muslims for their religion. He's like, oh, hell no, I don't agree with that at all. People were burned, the Muslims. Shut up, you're lead a hate organization now. So okay, what's Jonathan Greenblatt complaining about? So you watch the whole segment. By the way, there you go, Joe Scarborough, nice job. Thank you for standing up. I mean, and by the way, that's one of the very few times I've ever seen a cable news anchor defend someone Muslim, period, ever, in any context, right? Normally, pro-Israel guys like Jonathan Greenblatt come and they smear the living crap out of all Muslims and everybody goes, bravo, bravo. And then you say, where the Jews are gonna be unsafe. How about us? How about Muslims? Do we feel unsafe? We feel unsafe because guys like Jonathan Greenblatt are constantly going, the Muslims, we have to kill them all. We have to kill them in Gaza. To be fair, Jonathan Greenblatt didn't say kill them all, Randy Fine did, okay? But Jonathan Greenblatt is supporting everything that Israel's doing. A massive genocide, at least 68,000 dead, 20,000 kids dead. And he's like, yeah, but they're just Muslims. Muslims, are you kidding me? The whole world feels unsafe because of Israel. Every Muslim, every Arab, every Palestinian feels unsafe because of Israel. But he's like, no, I feel unsafe just because we did a genocide. Sorry, I get worked up, okay? And in this case, why is it we, like it shouldn't be we, but Jonathan Greenblatt actually screwed up once, and in a TV appearance about Israel, he said we. Jonathan, you remember, you're supposed to be an American. Oh, Trump, do loyalty. But I didn't say we, you said we. So don't give me this nonsense crap about your stupid ass tropes and pretending that you're unsafe. So, and why are some Jewish Americans in fear? There are those real attacks that are terrible, despicable, and every decent human being condemns them. Nobody's in favor of those attacks. Nobody would be as monstrous as Randy Fine and Jonathan Greenblatt and go, oh, murdering people, as long as they're Palestinians, it's okay. Don't worry, Jonathan, we're not anywhere near as immoral as you. And all the Israeli supporters out there going, what's the big deal? The Palestinians had it coming. Of course, it's just dirty Muslims, okay? So now, who's scaring people? It's actually Jonathan Greenblatt, not just against Muslims, but for Jews. Jonathan Greenblatt's going out there. You're going to be unsafe. You know they're burning everyone. You're so unsafe. Remember, my organization is going to keep, give me money, give me money. And that's from other Jewish Americans, by the way. He's like, give me money because you're unsafe. Oh, the Muslims, you're so unsafe. I'm the only one who could keep you safe by reporting on the dirty Muslims. Okay, now if you say, Cenk, that's unfair. He didn't say dirty Muslims. He just said all of a sudden when a Muslim mayor is elected, right? Okay, all right. So what does he want in policy? So let's look into the policy because maybe he's trying to protect Jewish Americans. So the three major things that he mentioned in that appearance were making sure that the NYPD still cooperates with the IDF. So wait, that doesn't have anything to do with Jewish Americans. That has to do with somehow having Israel infiltrate NYPD. And why is that a priority? Are you insane? Should we bring in the Polish military to help the NYPD? Should the Saudi military infiltrate the NYPD? And no Muslim feels safe unless the Saudis are running the NYPD or somehow working with them. What kind of a ludicrous thing would that to be said? And then you saw him say one of it, the BDS movement. No, wait, boycott, divestment, and sanction who? Jewish Americans? No, that's a foreign government. It's to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel. So you don't care about Jewish Americans. You don't care about Jews. You don't care about bigotry. The only thing you care about is your beloved Israel. Jonathan, can you be honest once in your life? Trump, you can't say that. Trump. I don't care. You're a liar. You lied about Mamdani. You're lying about the danger everybody is in from the Muslim who won't support Israel. And you're lying about your real priorities, and it's super obvious. Because when we ask you, all you list is Israel, Israel, Israel. In fact, the last thing he said was curious. He's like, he better not touch the education system. I was like, why? Was there a threat to changing math or physics? What's he talking about? Oh, you've got in the history books that Israel was attacked in 1967 and all these different times when Israel was not attacked. Israel launched that war. Israel started it in 1948, 1967, and right now the Jonathan Greenblatts of the world are freaking out. But guys, it's never Jewish Americans. It's these guys who are pro-Israel radicals that run these groups, okay? And they're like, how dare you, saying that Israel had 6% of the land but took 48% and obviously drove out all the Palestinians and murdered them there to take the 48%, while factually true. And they did it with tons of terrorism, including blowing up the King David Hotel. And the leaders of those Jewish terrorist groups then became the prime ministers of Israel over and over again. While technically and empirically true, is anti-Semitic. The facts are a trope. All facts are a trope. So yeah, we got it, Jonathan. You love Israel, you want to serve Israel, you hate Muslims, you want to drive hatred towards Muslims, and we're sick of it. And I can't believe one of our champions is Joe Scarborough.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, in the months after October 7th, there were portions of that show that were unwatchable. It was unwatchable. The unchecked nonsense that was spewing. I know we want people to go check out the interview for themselves, but there's a couple of things that I found curious. Number one, Joe Scarborough said he wanted to get Mamdani and Jonathan together just to talk. Like, wouldn't that be great? And the hesitation from Greenblatt was just unfathomable. I couldn't believe that he did not even want to talk to him. He pretended he did, but he didn't. And the other thing that crossed my mind was this. I hate to say it, but this Mamdani meter is so sick. Can you imagine if a woman were elected the mayor of New York and there was a meter that were watching her, or a black man like Eric Adams, who should have watched him? We would have said, oh my God, I can't believe this. This is horrific, actually, this meter.
Yeah, the minute you said woman, I was like, oh, you're so right. Because my mind went to David Dinkins, the first black mayor of New York, right? If when he won, there was like a Dinkins meter, a black man is now the mayor. So we're gonna track crime. Everybody feels unsafe. We all feel, white people feel unsafe. Hey, if you're a white person, report in if you feel unsafe. Oh, Sharon, that was a gorgeous point. That is exactly right.
So blatant. Do you know what I mean? It's not even like, he's not even coded. It's just so blatant. We've got to watch this Muslim. We have to watch him.
100%. Not even, it's not a dog whistle. I heard it. It's a human whistle. And last thing is, they keep saying like, well, I mean, Mamdani says these things. By the way, he doesn't say those things, right? And then they say that, well, if he would just say that Jewish Americans are the same. The brother said it thousands of times. He said it last night in his victory speech. He said it today. He celebrates Jews, etc. But it's never good enough because it isn't about Jewish Americans. It's about a foreign government. And that's why the leaders of these pro-Israel radical groups are never satisfied until every politician in America bows their head to Israel. And no, Jonathan, it's not a trope, because it's not about Jewish Americans, and stop smearing them. You're driving up anti-Semitism through the roof. I have Jewish family, I have nothing but Jewish friends. Oh no, okay, you're not allowed to say you have Jewish friends. I don't give a goddamn what I'm allowed to say. I'm telling you the reality, and I don't want them to get hurt. The only way they get hurt is by guys like Jonathan Greenblatt going, all right, all the politicians bow down to Israel. Oh, they didn't, that's it, eliminate them. No, you're doing the trope, you monster, you idiot. You idiot, you don't speak for all these Jews. You're actually getting them in trouble, and you're riling up so much hatred. Mamdani's not doing it, you're doing it, you moron. No, they don't have to represent a foreign government. They should represent this government, and they should represent Muslims, Christians, atheists, and Jews in New York City, not in Tel Aviv. I don't give a damn about Tel Aviv. I don't give a damn about Riyadh or Karachi, okay? God bless all of them, but they're not our business. He won the mayor of New York, and let him be the mayor without being so unbelievably racist and bigoted. Thank you for calling it out, Sharon.
Desperation, but and I know we have to go, but it's the desperation. When you have young Jewish Americans supporting this new mayor, this campaign, joining forces with Muslims, saying, look, we all have the same progressive ideals here. They can't tolerate it. Greenblatt, perhaps AIPAC of sure, it cannot be tolerated because this trend, this youth movement is very dangerous to that.
We need President Shafiq to do three things. Number one, we need NYPD back on this campus or bring in the National Guard. Number two, no masks on campus. This isn't Fallujah, this is Morningside Heights. And number three, the students who behave in this way need to be suspended immediately.
There you have it, Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the Anti-Defamation League, calling for the National Guard to squash student protests at Columbia. Now, unfortunately, he also went on to defame the protesters as the head of the Anti-Defamation League by basically lumping them all together and saying the following. Make no mistake, these protests have nothing to do with self-determination for Palestinians. This is about sanitizing Hamas and encouraging terror right here, right now in New York City. It should be unacceptable. Now, as we showed you on this program just yesterday, there are definitely examples of people who are saying disgusting, deplorable things. There are people who have said things or chanted things that seem to be in favor of Hamas. But the vast majority of the protesters, including the student groups that have organized these protests, have not supported those statements, have condemned those statements, and are very clear about what their mission is. It is not anti-Semitic. It is in regard to the conduct that Israel is carrying out in the Gaza Strip, which has killed tens of thousands of people, Palestinians who are trapped in that region, in that small enclave.
Yeah, so first of all, ADL is complicated. It's done some terrific work in the past, and not just protecting Jewish Americans, but protecting Muslim Americans, et cetera, including Jonathan Greenblatt. Having said that, he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs on this one. The National Guard to shut down free speech on campus. By the way, right wing, where are you at? And I know a lot of you are there, but this is the most, like the biggest case of cancel culture I have ever seen in my entire life. You dare to disagree with a foreign government, you will be arrested on campus.
It's crazy.
So I'm gonna show you guys, to our knowledge, not a single student has been arrested for anything related to anti-Semitism at all. This whole thing's a giant manufactured distraction based on absolutely, like not absolutely nothing. As we showed you, there are a couple of disturbing videos, but out of thousands and thousands of protests on college campuses, you found two sets of randos. One were college students, the others weren't even college students.
Yeah.
And nothing that got out of hand to the point where there was an assault or anything like that and somebody had to be arrested for. Calling the National Guard, but you're gonna see a lot of Republican senators are joining him.
Yes.
And the second dirty trick is guys like Jonah Goldberg going on CNN today and saying, no, these are not peace protesters. These are pro-terrorists.
Oh my God.
Come on, man. I mean, the 1990s called, they want their talking points back. This is horse crap that no one's buying anymore. I mean, maybe your buddies on TV all high five over, yeah, we called all the Palestinians terrorists. We called everyone in favor of peace terrorists, right? But nobody else is buying your nonsense propaganda.
Yeah, look, this is crazy. If and when there are people who are specifically harassing Jewish students, making them to feel uncomfortable, assaulting anyone, they should immediately be arrested. I have no love for those people, okay? They're total wreckers, they're counterproductive, and they should suffer consequences for anything that they do that could cause harm or is causing harm to Jewish students. So let's get that out of the way. But to make blanket statements like this about all of the student protesters, to basically refer to them as terrorists, is anti-American. It goes against what our values as Americans are supposed to be. And so you should create a situation in which people who want to demonstrate peacefully have the ability to do so, while those who are causing problems, who are inciting violence, who might be assaulting others, those people should be arrested and should suffer the consequences. But we're not having that nuanced conversation. We're having a conversation of completely shutting this down with the use of the National Guard. And as you mentioned, Cenk, there are other figures, Republican senators in particular, who are in favor of using the National Guard to squash these protests, namely Senator Josh Hawley and Senator Tom Cotton. Now let's start with Cotton, who seems to have an affinity of using the National Guard against demonstrators who are marching for something he disagrees with. Cotton blamed Democrats for the protests in a social media post Monday morning, writing that the radical anti-Israel protesters have always been part of the Democratic Party's base. So really using this for political purposes, for campaigning purposes. And he did take it a step farther, saying that the nascent pogroms at Columbia.
Are you serious? Pogroms? Yeah. For saying that, hey, Colombia should divest from Israel.
Yep.
What kind of lunatic says this?
Is that not insulting to, like, throughout history, the Jewish people who have been victimized, okay? Is that not insulting to them?
Are you kidding me? There's a lot of the protesters are Jewish themselves, because this isn't about Jews versus Muslims. This is about, is this foreign government doing something wrong? Should we back it or should we not back it? So there's a lot of Jewish Americans on the side of the Palestinians saying we should not be backing Israel on this. And I bet you some of their family members went through pogroms in the past, because it's nearly unavoidable in the Jewish community because they've been so abused throughout history. And this clown is using it for some sort of rhetorical point to shut down free speech in America. And why? The right wing and the Republicans all pretended that they were big free speech champions, right? And now all of a sudden, the minute you criticize Israel, they'll go, how dare you? Cancel them all, cancel. In fact, arrest them, because they're pro-terrorists and they're doing pogroms, because they dared to disagree with Israel. Insanity. The good news is, Anna sent me the tweet. I looked at it as part of the story for Hawley. Oh my God, everyone in his mentions, all right wingers, no, this is dumb. That's not true.
Right.
Not buying this. You're sending in the National Guard against speech?
Right.
This is not a right-wing opinion.
And of course, both Cotton and Hawley are asking or demanding that Biden call for the National Guard to squash these protests. And if you're wondering if the president has the authority to do so, he would have the authority to do it. Although I don't think using the National Guard troops to squash student protesters would bode so well for Biden's reelection chances. But nonetheless, under the Insurrection Act, a president can federalize the National Guard if a state requests so to enforce a federal law or to protect civil rights. Now, Cotton also seems to have a fetish with sicking National Guard troops against protesters. If you can recall, there was a huge brouhaha when he penned an op-ed for the New York Times where he called for the National Guard to be used against BLM protesters. But let's move over to Josh Hawley and what he had to say. In a tweet, he wrote, Eisenhower sent the 101st to Little Rock. It's time for Biden to call out the National Guard at our universities to protect Jewish Americans. And one final thing I'll say about this is it's not just that the student protesters are protesting what is being carried out in Gaza. They have a very specific demand, and that demand at Columbia is that Columbia no longer do business with companies that are tied to Israel. It's part of the divest movement. And the divest movement is something that our politicians do not take kindly to, and in fact have taken it upon themselves, both on a local level and a federal level, to attempt to pass legislation that punishes people who choose to be part of the divest movement. And I can't believe that it hasn't been challenged all the way to the Supreme Court at this point, because our ability to be part of a protest organization based on our political beliefs should be protected under the First Amendment. There were cases in Texas, for instance, where an educator did not have her contract renewed because she happened to be sympathetic to that movement. But there's something about that particular movement, Cenk, that makes people lose their minds to the point,
I know why.
To the point where they're willing to squash the rights of Americans in order to do away with the divest movement, to disempower it.
100%. So I'm now totally in agreement with the divestment movement. I don't think that it's even close anymore. So the reason why people are super triggered by that is because that's the one thing that can work. Because once you put economic pressure, even South Africa, whites had complete power and they chose to become a minority in that country and lose not all of their power, but an enormous chunk of their power, the great majority of their power, because the boycott movement affected their economic interests. So the reason why they're super mad about BDS and anyone that's in the establishment immediately goes, anti-Semitic. And you're like, okay, why? And they're like, that's economic, that could hurt Israel. Yeah, that you didn't say that, you said nothing that proves that it's anti-Semitic. You're just proving our point that this is all about protecting Israel. And guys, I'm sorry, but this is literal. There's only one thing that you could say in America that'll get you arrested for your opinion, and that's opposing the Israeli government. So that is literal in the case of these protests. And in the case of the laws that Florida and other states have passed, you won't get arrested for it, but the government will punish you by not giving you a contract or taking your contract away if you dare to disagree, not with our government, but with the Israeli government. I literally have never seen that. The only other thing I've seen that's close is the anti-protest laws, also in Florida and other places, where if you protest like oil companies or other corporations, people are allowed to run you over. Okay, so this is total insanity. Now, the last thing is so important, because no one has been arrested for anti-Semitism. I want to be clear about that. Like, there's no physical act, they blocked the way of a Jewish student or they attacked a Jewish student or anything like that, none. All of their arrests are because they have protested Israel too much. But I'm saying that very literally, guys, because the protests are for protesting too long in a certain area or in the wrong area. These are all rules that they came up with recently. Columbia just said, hurry up and pass laws. They got new rules saying, that's it. If you protest too long or in the wrong place, we can drive you off of campus, suspend you, and do all those things. And when did they do that? I mean, there's been protests at Columbia for decades. I mean, it is one of the hubs of protests. But the minute there was protests against Israel, all of a sudden new rules, and you're protesting Israel too long. You're now under arrest in America for protesting a foreign government too long. And did you get that sense at all from mainstream media? Because whenever I turn on cable news, they're like, anti-Semitism, the students are all against the Jews, I can't believe it. And they were arrested. It makes it sound like they were arrested for anti-Semitism. Well, that's not even remotely true. And so that's the state of America as we have it right now. And Trita Parsi, last thing, made a good point online. He said, look, not only is Netanyahu, the right-wing government of Israel, destroying their democracy, but now it's beginning to destroy our democracy as both Republicans and ADL, which generally is liberal organization, good organization, all of a sudden the left and right of the establishment have come together to say, there is one golden rule: you cannot protest Israel. If you do, you're going to be in a world of trouble. And that is the least democratic thing you could do.
There is internal turmoil at the Anti-Defamation League as staff continue to mount concerns over the handling of this moment. Now, the ADL has reportedly prioritized the smearing and targeting of pro-Palestinian and pro-peace activists while ignoring some very real anti-Semitism that is on the rise in this country. Now, back in 2022, Jonathan Greenblatt, who is the CEO of the ADL, sparked controversy when he said this: anti-Zionism, is anti-Semitism. He said in a speech to ADL leaders. He singled out Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voice for Peace as groups that epitomize the radical left, the photo inverse of the extreme right that the ADL has long tracked. He's conflating anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. And look, you're going to get different views, even among liberals, even among some progressives, on what those terms mean. You've heard it on this network, and I think that discourse is good. But some members of the ADL's staff were outraged by this. And since October 7th and Hamas's attack on Israel, things have only escalated. But in response, the ADL has doubled down. 2 employees who have since quit and spoke to The Guardian voiced their concerns over these issues. The ADL has welcomed a controversial congressional resolution that defined anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism, and it has called on law enforcement to investigate student activist groups for providing material support to Hamas, which the US government has designated as a terrorist organization. Now, critics of this organization have spoken out about this approach because it could jeopardize the legitimacy of their research, and it also undermines their counter-extremism work, saying the group has foregone much of its historical mission to fight anti-Semitism in favor of doing advocacy for Israel. A current employee of the ADL attested to that, saying in a statement to The Guardian, the ADL has a pro-Israel bias and an agenda to suppress pro-Palestinian activism. Another staffer who recently resigned said in a statement, those were Jewish people who we, as the ADL, were defaming. So that felt extremely, extremely confusing and frustrating to me. And it makes it harder to talk about that when any criticism of Israel or anyone who criticizes Israel just becomes a terrorist. As I was mentioning, the ADL gathers data on the number of anti-Semitic incidents across the country, and they've shown that anti-Semitism is on the rise since October 7th. But with this approach, when they're conflating anti-Zionism, which many would argue is just criticism of the Israeli government and their policies, with anti-Semitism, some people feel like that data could be misconstrued, could be inaccurate. Ben Lorber, who is an analyst of trends in white nationalism at Political Research Associates, said it contributes to a distorted view. Parts of the ADL continue to do valuable work in monitoring and warning against the danger of the rising far right, but increasingly that work is compromised by their reactionary approach on Israel. I'm curious what both of you make of this story. Do you think this is responsible for a responsible position for the ADL to take?
Yeah, of course not, but it's a little bit more complicated. So first, ADL has been around since 1913 and has done some great work in the past. And I've said this many times, when Trump tried the Muslim ban, and he talked about it in the 2016 election, and then he tried some version of it when he actually got into office, ADL fought back super aggressively on behalf of Muslims. Even Jonathan Greenblatt said, as a proud Jew, I'm happy to register as a Muslim if I need to fight back against this. So I appreciate that deeply, don't forget that, okay? It's not just people are not black and white and organizations are not black and white. It's complicated, okay? There's nuance in there. Now, having said that, their current position on this is totally unconscionable. It's totally wrong. And so let me give you, there's one, it's obvious, like it's just not true. Criticizing the government of Saudi Arabia doesn't make you anti-Muslim. That's crazy. Criticizing the government of Turkey or Iran or Indonesia doesn't make you anti-Muslim, anti-Turkish. It doesn't make you any of those things. It is criticizing the US government, which we all do. Right wing does, left wing does. Right wing said, make America great again. America apparently was terrible. So like, are they all anti-American? I know some of you would say yes, okay, but no, that's not how it works. Of course you can criticize the government of Israel, not be anti-Semitic. Tons of Israelis criticize the government of Israel, the right-wing government of Israel. Tons of Israelis hate Netanyahu. Are they all anti-Semitic? No, it's an incredibly dumb and wrong standard, okay? But let me tell you about the harm. Now, there's massive anti-Semitism in the world and in this country. And as they were chanting, the Jews will not replace us in Charlottesville, as they're shooting up synagogues, as they have, now Trump's using Hitler quotes, some of the worst people in the world are rightly called anti-Semitic by the ADL, Kanye West, Nick Fuentes, etc. But now they're calling some of the best people on earth anti-Semitic, because these are the people, including fellow Jewish Americans, who are going out and saying, do not kill Palestinians in our name, don't do it. We want to protect the civilians in Gaza. And they go, anti-Semite, wait a minute. So now I don't know. Anytime I see anti-Semitic in the news, in the old days, it was probably a guy who's a terrible person. Now it could be either a guy who's a terrible person or a guy who's a wonderful person. Well, then now you've ruined the word and you've ruined the power of calling out bad actors. And you did it for a political reason. And remember, the left wing of Israel doesn't even agree. So it's just to protect the right wing of Israel. That's crazy and terribly counterproductive.
Yeah, sadly, it's true that criticism of Israel has historically been a proxy for some anti-Semitism. And so that gets washed together. This goes a little to what Cenk's saying. It gets washed together with things that are associated with legitimate criticism of Israel through the years. And it's also the case that within Israel, you have tremendous disagreement about how to proceed, about a two-state solution, even about Netanyahu, who, as Cenk noticed, is not a very popular leader. So I think it's reaction to that proxy nature of Israel as a conduit, essentially, for a lot of anti-Semitism that creates this trigger, and it's an inappropriate trigger within the ADL. But what you're also seeing is, protests around Jewish delis and protests around, I mean, that's straight out Jew hating, okay? The Jewish deli does nothing to do with Israel. And so I think, again, all of these things wash together, and that makes the ADL even more hair trigger in the reaction.
And I just one quick thing off of what Mark said, because that's right. And so what happened at the Jewish deli, I think is terrible, and other people have defended it. I don't agree. No, you don't surround somebody's restaurant or their house or their person and chant things, etc., and put them in fear and intimidate them. Why? Because they're Jewish. No way, no way, no way, okay? But when the ADL called out anti-Semites who did that, they had a lot of credibility. But now when they call out chants in favor of protecting Palestinian lives, and they call it anti-Semitic as well, now I don't know. Now I don't know what happened at the deli. Because now I go, wait, was the deli really anti-Semitism? Or did they chant about how the Palestinians should be free? I don't know, because I can't trust the ADL anymore.
Yeah, just think a couple weeks ago, Elon Musk was replying to somebody on Twitter who made an explicitly anti-Semitic remark about how Jews control the world. And Elon Musk responds with, "You speak the truth." And Greenblatt condemned it. A couple days later, they met. And then I'm sure he made some sort of promise to Greenblatt about how they would handle and tackle anti-Semitism on the platform. And then suddenly he's singing his praises. You don't go from endorsing like the standard, like boilerplate anti-Semitic conspiracy theory to being a leader and a champion in the fight against anti-Semitism. And it just seems like this organization is a bit opportunistic. And to speak to the Jewish Voice for Peace, and if not now, these groups who are doing tremendous work. And since day one, have been holding space and grieving and mourning in a very complicated moment for people who are Jewish, for people who have family in Israel, who were maybe even, unfortunately, directly impacted by what happened on October 7th. They were out there demanding peace and mourning for everybody affected by this. And within that, there's a lot of power. And people who are defending the Israeli government, people who are cheering on this war, people who are completely callous to the suffering that this war is causing, that's inconvenient. So it's much easier to smear all of them as anti-Semitic when we all know they're not. They're just out there advocating for peace and calling for space to grieve for everybody who's affected by this.
It's also context, you know. The context of this is that I think Hamas is overwhelmingly winning. I mean, you've got essentially a pariah status that Israel has sort of assumed. The world turning on Israel. Jews everywhere are fearing for their lives. I mean, in their places of worship, in their places of business, as you said. So Hamas is really, I mean, it's a bizarre thing to say over the graves or over the deaths of so many thousands of innocent people. But that said, again, that's the context in which all of these decisions about what to react to and who to embrace and how quickly, in the case of Musk, as he comes over to our side, well, we're so desperate to, you know, get some social media leader. That's the context. I think there is a sense that, wow, the world has turned against us Jews, and we have to be almost a zero tolerance policy when it comes to that which is affecting our community.
Yeah, but ironically, that winds up becoming a bigger problem. So when people fight back and go, oh my God, Hamas is using human shields, we had to kill all those civilians. You're not helping, because look, whether we like it or not, and whether you are bothered by it or not, if you don't live in America, the whole world is showing Palestinians picking out body parts from the rubble every single day, because it's true. I mean, 22,000 butchered now. And every day, people in Europe, Asia, Africa, everywhere see Palestinians picking up baby body parts. So then when you say, hey, can you please not do that? And they go, anti-Semite. No, you've ruined it. Then no one's gonna believe in any anti-Semitism when you overuse it like that. And so this is so deeply counterproductive. And look, I'm gonna give a word to one of our members here, tyt.com/join, to become part of our community and be part of the show. Purple Rain Dragon said, why aren't they going ham on Netanyahu? He has provided material support to Hamas. And that's an interesting point, because Greenblatt and ADL are saying anyone protesting what Israel's doing on a college campus is aiding Hamas. That's insane. That's just, first of all, lunatic thing to say. I mean, can't understand how we could say that with a straight face. That's so insane, okay? So what, we're not supposed to have freedom of speech? We can't even say Palestinians shouldn't be killed? That's like, okay, so he can't be any more counterproductive. But wait, if you're talking about anything that is aids and comforts Hamas is anti-Semitic, Netanyahu allowed funding of Hamas. Everybody knows that. Israeli papers reported it. There's no dispute over that. So then is Netanyahu anti-Semitic? Because he helped Hamas 10 million times more than any college student in America. How you see how this standard is insane and totally untenable. ADL, you're destroying yourselves. You can hate me for saying it, you can hate all of us and the people inside your own organization, but it's a fact, and it's uncomfortable, but it's true. You're losing all credibility. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.